First contact fallout. The Ardelian ships materialized at the edge of Alpha Centauri with a flash of displaced space, their sleek obsidian hulls absorbing, rather than reflecting the light of the nearest star. 17 warships, arranged in the sacred formation that had heralded the arrival of the consortium to hundreds of worlds across 3 spiral arms. Admiral Thex stood on the command deck of the flagship Inexorable Tide, his translucent membrane fluttering across his 4 eyes as he studied the unexpected scene before him. The intelligence reports had been incomplete. The humans were not confined to their homeworld as their preliminary assessment had indicated. "Magnify that structure," he ordered, pointing a slender digit at a large artificial satellite orbiting the system's habitable planet. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing a sprawling space station with vessels of various sizes coming and going. Humans had established a thriving colony in a neighboring star system. This was unexpected. "Scan for weapons systems," Thex commanded. "None detected, Admiral," replied his second, Varen. "Their technology appears primitive. Chemical propulsion, rudimentary shielding. They're using nuclear fission for energy generation." The Admiral's mouthparts twitched in what passed for a smile among the Ardelians. "Perfect. Standard contact protocol, then. Announce our presence and prepare the subjugation package." Across the void, on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Resilient, Captain Maya Chen received the alert from the long-range sensors. "Multiple vessels just appeared at the system's edge, Captain," reported her tactical officer. "They're big, really big." Chen straightened her uniform and ran a hand through her short black hair. "Classification: unknown. Nothing like this in our database." Chen nodded calmly. "Inform Alpha Colony to initiate Protocol Umbra. Ready defense systems, but keep them passive. Let's see what our visitors want before we show our hand." The communication came moments later, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect English. "People of Earth, your expansion into the stars has brought you to the attention of the Ardelian Consortium, rulers of the Sagittarius Arm. Your technology is primitive, your defenses negligible. We offer you protection and guidance in exchange for your complete submission to Consortium rule. Resistance would be regrettable and futile. You have 1 planetary rotation to signal your acceptance." The message concluded with detailed instructions for surrender. Captain Chen exchanged glances with her executive officer, Commander Okafor, whose dark eyes sparkled with barely contained amusement. "They'd done their homework on our language, but not much else," Chen said. "Open a channel." When the connection established, Chen straightened and looked directly into the camera. "This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We receive your message, Ardelian Consortium. I propose a face-to-face meeting to discuss terms. You are welcome to send representatives to our colony station." The response came quickly. "You misunderstand, human. This is not a negotiation. The Consortium does not discuss terms with pre-unification species." Chen's expression remained professionally neutral. "Perhaps a demonstration would help clarify our position then. We can meet in neutral space." After a brief pause, the alien commander agreed. 2 hours later, a small Ardelian shuttle approached the designated coordinates, where the Resilient waited. From the viewport, Admiral Thex observed the human vessel with disdain. It was small, perhaps a quarter the size of his flagship, with none of the elegant curves or intimidating presence of proper Consortium architecture. "Primitive," he muttered to his entourage. "Their hull is made of common metals and ceramics. They haven't even mastered gravitational manipulation." As the ships aligned, Thex ordered his demonstration. One of the Consortium destroyers positioned itself within view of both vessels. With a silent command, a brilliant beam of energy lanced out from the destroyer, striking the nearby asteroid. The space rock immediately glowed white-hot before exploding into a million fragments. "Our smallest weapons platform," Thex announced over the channel to the human ship. "Your entire colony would require only 3 such strikes to be completely eradicated." On the view screen, Captain Chen's reaction was not what Thex expected. The human smiled. Impressive energy yield, she said. Plasma-based, I assume. Very efficient. Thex's membrane fluttered in confusion. You face annihilation, human. Fear would be appropriate. Chen's smile widened slightly. Oh, we take your demonstration very seriously, Admiral. But perhaps you'd like to see one of ours. Without waiting for a response, Chen nodded to someone off-screen. Commander, if you would. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Thex's tactical officer made a strangled sound. Admiral, the destroyer. It's gone. Thex whirled around. Where the consortium destroyer had been, there was now only empty space. Not debris, not an explosion. The ship had simply vanished. What trickery is this? Thex demanded. Chen's expression remained calm. No trickery, Admiral. We've simply relocated your vessel to the other side of this star system. Your crew is unharmed. They'll be back under their own power in approximately 6 hours. Impossible, hissed Thex. No species at your development level could possess such technology. You see, Admiral, Chen continued as if he hadn't spoken. Humans developed along a different technological path than most spacefaring races. We discovered quantum displacement before we perfected fusion. We manipulated gravity before we mastered light-speed communication. We're unconventional. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Thex felt something akin to fear. I think, Chen said into the silence, that we should discuss those terms now. Would you care to come aboard? The interior of the human vessel was austere by consortium standards, but functional. Admiral Thex and 2 of his officers followed Captain Chen through corridors populated by humans of various ethnicities, all of whom regarded the aliens with curious but not fearful expressions. Your ship seems lightly armed, Thex observed, trying to regain his bearings in this increasingly confusing situation. By conventional standards, yes, Chen agreed. We focus more on defensive systems. They entered a conference room where several other human officers waited. Through the viewports, Thex could see his shuttle, and beyond it, the Resilience Hall. Now let me be clear, Chen began once they were seated. Earth has no interest in conflict with the Ardelian Consortium. We're explorers and traders by nature, but we will not be subjugated. Thex's pride reasserted itself. The consortium has incorporated 246 species across 1,200 worlds. Submission is inevitable. Dr. Elisa Santos, the ship's chief scientist, leaned forward. Those 246 species, they all developed along similar technological paths, didn't they? Combustion, fusion, photonics, gravimetrics, in roughly that order. The accuracy of her statement startled Thex. The natural progression of technological species, he replied stiffly. Santos exchanged a glance with Chen. Except it's not universal. Humans followed a different path. We developed quantum mechanics applications before we perfected nuclear fusion. We created artificial intelligence before we mastered interstellar travel. We approached physics sideways. Which means, Chen continued, that while your weapons and shields are indeed impressive, they're designed to counter technologies that developed along that common path. Our defenses work on principles your weapons aren't designed to overcome. To demonstrate, Santos placed a small device on the table. It projected a hologram of what appeared to be the Resilient. This is our shield system, not energy-based like yours, but a quantum probability field. Your weapons don't hit us or miss us. They simply have an extremely low probability of interacting with our matter at all. Thex stared at the projection, his worldview crumbling around him. The consortium's military doctrine was based on technological superiority along a known development path. These humans had simply taken a different road. I must report this to the Consortium Council, he said finally. Chen nodded. Of course. And while you're at it, please convey our invitation to establish diplomatic relations. We believe there's much our civilizations could learn from each other. As the Ardelian delegation returned to their shuttle, Thex's mind raced. The Council would not take this news well. For millennia, the consortium had expanded through intimidation and technological advantage. Now they faced a species that had inadvertently circumvented that advantage entirely. The universe had suddenly become a much more complicated place. The human factor. The central chamber of the Ardelian Consortium Council gleamed with polished obsidian and pulsed with holographic displays. 17 counselors, representing the founding worlds of the consortium, listened intently as Admiral Thex concluded his report. In summary, esteemed counselors, the humans possess technology that developed along an entirely unpredicted path. Their defenses are impenetrable to our conventional weapons, and their ability to manipulate space-time exceeds our current capabilities. High Counselor Marin, her skin a deeper shade of blue than her peers, indicating her advanced age and status, leaned forward. Are you suggesting, Admiral, that this single species presents a genuine threat to consortium dominance in this sector? I believe they represent an opportunity, High Counselor, Thex replied carefully. Their technological development suggests solutions to problems that have plagued our scientists for generations. Or, interrupted Counselor Vex, his voice harsh, they represent the first genuine military challenge we faced in 2,000 cycles. We should mobilize the Grand Fleet immediately. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. With respect, Thex countered, a direct military confrontation would be unwise. We don't fully understand their capabilities. Then we will test them, Marin decided after a moment. Admiral, you will take a battle group to one of their outlying colonies. Apply pressure. See how they respond under duress. Then we will decide whether these humans are to be conquered or courted. 2 weeks later, a fleet of 30 Ardelian warships emerged from Fold Space near Europa Novus, humanity's farthest colony. A small outpost with minimal defenses, it presented an ideal target to assess human military response. No immediate reaction to our arrival, reported Varin, now serving as Thex's first officer aboard the dreadnought Immutable Law. The colony's automated systems have detected us, but they appear to have limited orbital defenses. Thex nodded, his membrane twitching with unease. Deploy the fleet in standard encirclement pattern. Launch probes toward their defensive perimeter. The sleek Ardelian probes streaked toward the colony's orbit. Moments before they would have crossed the defensive boundary, they simply stopped. What's happening? Thex demanded. The probes are caught in some kind of stasis field, Varin replied, bewilderment clear in his voice. They're being examined. On the command deck's main screen, the probes hung motionless. Then, one by one, they disassembled, not destructively, but with surgical precision, each component separating and floating in perfect formation. A communication request chimed through the ship's systems. The face that appeared on screen wasn't what Thex expected. Not Captain Chen, but a young man with russet skin and bright eyes. Greetings, Admiral, the human said cheerfully. I'm Governor Malik Sato of Europa Novus. I see you're interested in our defensive systems. We're quite proud of them. Thex struggled to maintain his composure. Your colony is surrounded, Governor. We've come to test humanity's resolve. Sato's expression remained pleasant. Yes, we noticed. Although surrounded isn't quite accurate from our perspective. Space is three-dimensional, after all. But semantics aside, was there something specific you wanted to discuss? Or are we just appreciating each other's ship designs today? Before Thex could respond, Varin interrupted urgently. Admiral, our sensors detect multiple small objects emerging from the colony's surface. Hundreds of tiny points of light were rising from Europa Novus, spreading outward in an expanding sphere. Don't worry, Sato said, noticing their reaction. Those are just our defensive swarm, completely autonomous units. They're curious about your fleet. As the swarm approached, Thex made a decision. Target the lead units. Defensive fire only. The nearest Ardelian cruiser fired, its energy weapons lancing out toward the approaching lights. The beams passed harmlessly through them. Holograms. Thex wondered aloud. Not exactly, Sato replied. Quantum ghosts. They're both there and not there, depending on how you interact with them. Very useful for gathering intel while remaining essentially untargetable. As the swarm enveloped the Ardelian fleet, ship systems began behaving erratically. Weapons went offline. Communications stuttered. Navigation systems reported impossible readings. What is the meaning of this? Thex demanded, his composure finally breaking. Sato's expression turned serious for the first time. Just demonstrating that we can defend ourselves, Admiral. Your ships are unharmed, but as you can see, we could disable them if necessary. Now, would you prefer to continue this demonstration, or shall we discuss why you're really here? In the ship's science bay, junior researcher Lilith watched the proceedings with fascination. Unlike most of her colleagues, who viewed the humans with disdain or fear, she found them endlessly intriguing. While the Admiral engaged in his showdown, she pored over the data they had collected about human physiology and psychology. It doesn't make sense, she muttered to herself. Their evolutionary history should have produced a cautious, hierarchical species. Instead, they're collaborative, creative, and remarkably unconcerned with status. Her superior, Chief Researcher Kelvin, grunted dismissively. They're an aberration. Their technological development is a fluke, nothing more. But Lilith wasn't convinced, or they represent an entirely different path of sentient development. Look at their history. They faced extinction-level events multiple times, but instead of becoming more regimented like the Drawl or more isolationist like the Xani, they became more adaptive and cooperative. Your point, junior researcher. My point is that we're approaching them all wrong. We're treating them like any other pre-unification species, but they're fundamentally different. They don't think like us. Before Kelvin could respond, the ship shuddered violently. What was that? Lilith asked, steadying herself against a console. The answer came moments later as emergency alerts blared throughout the vessel. Not an attack, something else entirely. In the space between the human colony and the Ardelian fleet, a phenomenon was forming. A swirling distortion that rapidly expanded, disgorging what appeared to be a massive crystalline structure. Unknown entity detected, announced the ship's eye. Configuration matches no known species or natural phenomenon. On the command deck, both Thex and Governor Sato stared at the apparition with equal confusion. Is this yours? They asked simultaneously. The crystalline structure pulsed with internal light, extending tendrils of energy toward both the colony and the fleet. Admiral, Varen reported urgently, those energy patterns are consistent with scanning and weapons targeting. Whatever it is, it's preparing to attack. Governor Sato had turned away from the screen, clearly communicating with his people. He returned a moment later. We're detecting massive energy buildups within that structure. Our analysis suggests it's an automated weapons platform, and it's detected both our civilizations as potential threats. A remnant defense system from some long-dead civilization, Thex hypothesized. It must have been triggered by our combined presence. The crystalline structure fired its first salvo, a beam of coruscating energy that sliced through one of the Ardelian cruisers as if it were paper. The ship split cleanly in two, secondary explosions consuming both halves within seconds. We need to coordinate, Sato said urgently. Your weapon systems can penetrate its outer layer, but our quantum displacement technology can target its power core directly. Together, we might stand a chance. Thex hesitated only briefly. Pride and protocol meant little against extinction. Agreed. Coordinate with my tactical officer. What followed was a dance of technologies. Ardelian cruisers hammering the crystalline structure with plasma beams, while human drones performed short-range quantum jumps directly inside the entity, disrupting its systems from within. In the science bay, Lilith worked feverishly alongside her human counterparts via video link, analyzing the entity's responses and predicting its adaptations. It's learning, she told a human scientist named Dr. Kapoor. Each attack we launch, it develops countermeasures. Then we need to be unpredictable, Kapoor replied. Not just in our attacks, but in our defense. Can your ships modify their shield frequencies according to this pattern? The pattern Kapoor sent was unlike anything in Ardelian tactical doctrine. Not a logical progression, but a seemingly random sequence with subtle underlying correlations. This is based on Earth music, Kapoor explained, seeing Lirith's confusion. Jazz improvisations, specifically, predictably unpredictable. Against all conventional wisdom, it worked. The combined fleet harried the crystalline entity, preventing it from establishing target locks long enough for specialized human vessels to position themselves. Now, Governor Sado ordered. 3 human ships, positioned equidistantly around the entity, activated their quantum displacement drives simultaneously. The space around the crystalline structure warped, folded, and then collapsed inward. With a silent flash of energy, the entity imploded, leaving nothing but scattered particles. The battle was over. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in and rescue operations commenced, Admiral Thex found himself in an unprecedented position, standing on equal footing with a species that by all consortium metrics should have been primitive and easily subjugated. Governor Sado extended an invitation that Thex couldn't refuse. A formal meeting on the colony station to discuss what had happened and the implications for both their peoples. The station's observation deck offered a panoramic view of both the colony and the gathered fleets, now working together to clear the dangerous debris field left by the battle. You realize, Thex said, watching an Ardelian medical ship dock with a damaged human vessel, that this changes everything for the consortium. Sato nodded. First contact scenarios rarely go as expected. For either party. The Council will need to reevaluate our entire approach to expansion, Thex continued. If humans developed along such a different path, there may be others. There almost certainly are, Sado agreed. The universe is too vast for convergent evolution to be the only path forward. Junior researcher Lirith, invited to the meeting for her insights during the battle, spoke up. It's not just your technology that developed differently. It's your entire approach to existence. Ardelians, and indeed most consortium species, evolve through rigid hierarchy and specialization. Humans evolve through adaptation and collaboration. That's what makes us dangerous, Dr. Kapoor said with a slight smile. Not our weapons, but our thinking. We solve problems, creatively. And what problem are you solving now? Thex asked. Sato and Kapoor exchanged glances. The problem of meeting a galactic civilization that's far larger and more established than ourselves. Sato answered honestly. We're trying to turn potential conquerors into allies. For the first time since meeting the humans, Admiral Thex laughed, a sound rarely heard from Ardelians. In that case, Governor, I believe you've succeeded. The consortium has never encountered a species quite like humanity. Better to have you with us than against us. As the formal alliance began to take shape over the following days, Lirith found herself increasingly drawn to studying human culture. Their art, their music, their literature, all reflected their unique approach to existence. They create simply to create, she explained to Thex as they prepared to return to consortium space. Not just for function or status, but for the joy of making something new. A dangerous trait in some ways, Thex observed, but admirable in others. The Council will need to understand this if we're to forge a lasting peace. Do you think they will? Lirith asked. Thex gazed out at the stars, considering the vastness of the universe and how much smaller the consortium suddenly seemed within it. They must, he said finally. For too long, we've measured advancement along a single axis. The humans have shown us that the universe offers many paths forward. If we're wise, we'll learn to walk some of them ourselves. As the Ardelian fleet prepared to depart, carrying news that would reshape the politics of an entire galactic arm, humanity prepared for its introduction to the wider galactic community, not as subjects, but as equals. They had faced the stars, and against all odds, made them blink first.